All right, continuing with our opponent previews, and here at Big 12 Media Day in Las Vegas, decided let's catch up in person, rather than doing it on Zoom. And so we got Josh Furlong, who covers Utah for KSL.com. So we're going to talk about the Utes today, and good timing because today Kyle Whittingham and the Utes talked to the media, and you've been covering the Utes for a long time, and so they are favored to win this conference. And just generally, what's the vibe around the team from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think they feel confident in who they are, right? I think they have the roster, the depth to be able to compete. I think a lot of that goes to Cam Rising, their starting quarterback, who obviously wasn't here last year, but he led them to back-to-back Pac-12 titles. So I think they have the belief and understanding that they can get to the playoffs. They see beyond the Big 12. Yeah. You heard some of that today. Yeah. But it's a team that just feels confident in who they are. They know they have to back it up on the field, but they like what they have, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I don't remember specifically if Whittingham was talking about the playoff, but he mentioned. I remember a comment where he's saying, "I like that the destiny is in our hands. We don't have to rely on other people." Meaning, I would assume he meant the playoff. That winning the Pac-12 in the past didn't mean you were going to the playoff, even if you're 11-1 or whatever. But now you win this conference, you're in the playoff, and Utah can be confident. And to me, they're one of two teams more than anybody else in this conference that is confident in who they are, and it's them and Oklahoma State, and it's because they've had the same head coach for 20 years, and everybody knows Utah's identity, and even the people. They're new to the Big 12, but even Big 12 people, they know Utah's identity because he's been around so long, and so and while Rising is a big part of it, that identity doesn't really seem to have changed, right? I mean, they're still going to hit you in the mouth on defense. They're still going to run the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he spoke about that today, right? I mean, his MO is physicality, and whether that's in the trenches on the offensive line or defense, it's the same, right? Yeah. Traditionally, it has been on the defense, right? They have wanted to be more physical there. They want to say, we'll stay in a game. It honestly is what helped Utah progress in the Pac-12 when they first started, because quite honestly, they didn't have the roster or the depth to be able to do that, but their defense kept them in. So now, now that they have more of the Power 4, Power 5, whatever we're calling it nowadays, those types of bodies in there, they feel confident that they can move forward with that because they can be physical. They can do that. It's not an issue of who do we have on offense. That matters obviously, and they found that out last year. Yeah. But it's a matter of can we be physical, and then if we get the offense on top of that, it's only gravy, right? Like it adds to that, and that's something that Kyle's had to take in the last 2 years as well, is understanding that offense matters, right? And it's not just defense. Defense wins championships, but you have to have points too. Yeah. So
and offense is probably what prevented them from being a better team last year, because they finished 8-5, which is a great season for a lot of teams. And Colorado would love an 8-5, but that defense was really good. But offensively, you not only didn't have Cam Rising, you didn't have Brant Keithy. He hasn't played in almost 2 years, like a year and a half or something like that. You didn't have one of your star running backs as well. All those guys are healthy. I talked to Brant about that briefly. And he goes, yeah, we're excited because we're finally back. And he and Cam are seventh-year seniors. They're in this new age of college football. Well, it won't last much longer because COVID years are going away, but they're seventh-year seniors. How big of a deal is it that not only Cam, but that Brant is back, because he's been such a buff killer, but he's been a really good player against everybody?
Well, it helps. I mean, like, if you have a proven guy that Cam feels comfortable with, I mean, that instantly gives you that credibility in the offense, right? They've done a lot this offseason to build that offense. They've gotten a lot of wide receivers, Dorian Singer being the top name there. Yeah. But you have a name like that where you automatically have that connection. I think that helps, right? Yeah. And Brant, as you said, he's not just been a Buffs killer. He's been everybody's killer, right? So I think when you get a guy that has that much production, that has that connection with him, that just gives them an instant 1-2 punch. And then if you add all those components around it, it just helps, right? So I think that's where they feel confident, especially on offense this year, because they have added those upgrades, but you do get those two players back. Yeah.
The one thing about Utah recently is that they've had a ton of draft picks, but they continue to replace those guys. And so what does the defense look like? Because, I mean, they lost some key guys on defense, but as I look at this team, I'm like, dang, they're still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, their star unit is going to be their defensive line, as it always is. I mean, they've got guys that they'll find ways to turn a 3-star guy into a 5-star player, right? Like they'll get that. So that's going to be consistent. The biggest question for me remains in the secondary. You're replacing 2 tough safeties that really meant a lot to Utah. Corner, the depth isn't quite there. At least I think so. Kyle seemed pretty optimistic about it, and he feels good there. But I think what Morgan Scalley and Sharif Shah have done there, they continue to show, like, we'll continue to put in new guys. So I think the defense, they continue to bring out these players, especially that front 7. They're going to be loaded. They're the same players that they've had for the last couple of years. So it'll be a good system there for them. It's just a matter of kind of rebuilding and kind of retooling that in a way that guys that haven't had experience now get experience.
Yeah. So what's your final analysis? I mean, they are projected to win this league. Do you feel like this is a playoff team? I mean, if they win the league, they're in the playoff. But do you feel like this is a team that can get there?
Yeah, I mean, covering this team in 2019 where they were a playoff team, right? I mean, you win one more game and you're in. Yeah. And I think maybe back to your other comment, that's where Kyle feels like we could have been in the playoff. It is similar, right? It's different in the sense that coming into that year, there was a lot of guys that came back because of wanting to win that. Yeah. I don't see that same camaraderie and that same thing. That doesn't mean that it's not there, but I see the talent level is there, right? They have the depth on defense. They're much more improved than they were even in 2019 on offense, at least in terms of all-around wealth. And so I think, are they capable of it? 100% I think they can. I think they have the talent to be able to do it. But I think there's still questions on how that's going to work in this Big 12, right? Like, it's easy to say, okay, we were doing that in the Pac-12, but what does that mean when you have to go to Stillwater, which I think is going to be their toughest test. But I think that'll be an interesting venue to kind of deal with, and then close it out with the Buffs and UFC and all that other stuff, so it'll be interesting.
Well, the Buffs fans want to believe that the toughest test is going to be in Boulder, and
it might be though.
And who knows? I mean, we're going to see on Colorado. They're one of the question mark teams, right? But they do have to come to Boulder, and it's not the last game of the year, and so it lessens the chance of snow. There's been a few snow games between these two teams, but you excited to come back to Boulder?
Oh, honestly, I love Boulder, and I'm excited to see it full, because I mean I've seen it in good years, and so I've seen it at a relatively good stadium, but I'm excited. It's one of my favorite venues to be able to go to, see Ralphie run out on the field. I think, Utah's always, even though, everybody tries to manufacture the rivalry between the two teams, I still think they get up for that game. I think it's been fun. So I'm curious to see how that goes with, Colorado hopefully at full strength, Utah hopefully at full strength, and we'll get to see some fun football.
Awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun in Boulder, and the Utes, again, one of the top contenders in this conference. And Josh, thank you very much, and we'll see you in Boulder.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.